Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for soul growth. Come journey with us through astrology's energetic cycles and get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sue Minahan, Talk Cosmos, and today is in November the 16th, right in the middle of darkening skies up here above the horizon, above the equator. And Archetypal Symbols is working with the Scorpio New Moon that is smack dab close to Mercury, retrograde. So it's quite a refocus of our emotional boundaries, relationships, alliances, and foundational basis. Let's get started. It's Archetypal Symbols. Thank you.
Synthesizing the new moon consciousness through archetypal Sabian symbols, numerology, lunar mansions, tarot, and astrology, all together illuminating a new moon vision story. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos since 2018. I'm an evolutionary astrologer, consultant, speaker, writer, vibrational astrology student, Dwarf Planet University graduate, Kepler Astrology Toastmasters Club charter member. I have a fine arts music degree plus a certificate in jazz. I'm an artist, musician, and certified color energy life coach. Especially, I love mythology and esoteric philosophies.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Machette, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
And I'm Justin Crocodelsy, an archetypal Jyotish astrologer, yoga and meditation teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electoral, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Unless you're in retrograde season. Rolling backwards, that face turning in two directions. Hi, Liz, and hi, Justin.
Hi, ladies. Good to be here with you both.
Yeah,
Hi, Sue. Hi, Justin.
It is. Well, here we are. It's 28 degrees. We're in that 6-month period where it stays at that degree, close to that anoretic. It's so filled with a whole month of experiences, yet it's a new moon. And this time, Mercury retrograde is right next to it. So we're looking at the archetypal energies, consciousness of two planets. Mars was the first always of action, and Pluto of transformation, the latter now a dwarf planet. Last month was Libra with Venus, looking at values, but we're taking those values and relationships and we're acting on them, but it's internal, right? It's all retrograde. So I guess I've said a lot. Do you want to flesh out more?
No, go to the next one.
Okay, yeah. But it is time, as always, to invoke those new intentions. The actual date is on the 20th of November, but there's a crescent moon, as Liz is always eager to point out, that you have time. When that light is beginning to form, Diana's bow, as it's called, the crescent moon, maybe 3-4 days, who knows? But still, because it takes a process. But look at these 4 planets all in Scorpio, adding to wherever they are in your chart. The sun and moon, of course, in early 28 degrees. Mercury at the end, 27, but it's retrograding. It's going backwards. And Black Moon Lilith, so close in Scorpio at 26 degrees. And then a little earlier, Venus trudging along, meeting all of that with Mercury at 16 degrees Scorpio. Let's talk. Any thoughts here? What this shares?
Go ahead, Liz.
A big focus energy on Scorpio, and I always think of Scorpio as, digging deep within ourselves, and secrets come out. It's like if you did something that you didn't want known, it's a potential for it to come forward. And it's, power. There could be power struggles, etc. Go ahead, Justin.
No, I agree with those concepts, those Scorpio themes of also transformation and death. And I feel like, because Mercury's there's this more intense mental and emotional energy going on at this particular point in time. And then so it asks us to go deeper into stuff, like you said, Liz and Sue, really about going deep into fleshing out issues, psychological issues that we may have with our communications or relationships, because Black Moon and Lilith and Scorpio really wants to hold on to stuff. It's about controlling something. That Scorpio doesn't want to let go. It's having to learn to let go and have death and be liberated out of that. And so I think this is a really good time as we get into the savings. We'll talk more about this. I think it's a good time to really reassess, and it could be a healing time, I think, as well.
It is a real deep tug, isn't it? That's very well presented. It's in that internal mirrors of memories of times with the retrograde process, evaluating. It's not even a thing. Well, Mercury wants to evaluate, but with all that emotion. Yeah, let's see what more we have, because the archetypes of the planets themselves also, that life and death theme. Pluto is death, but that's the ending, a finality. And with his consort of Persephone, that however she was taken became the queen of the underworld, is new birth. She left there to return agriculturally, and this is how we interpret all of it in mythology, but still it's that ability to change what death is into a new life, that it continues. There's a new opportunity of birth. And the three-headed dog of Pluto, and that was a Roman name. Hades was the Greek, although the underworld was also called Hades. Cerberus, rather, had serpents in different parts of his body, but guarded that gate so that the dead couldn't leave. In the first beginning, when you died, that was it. Lights out. Yeah. Any rate, not to make too light of it, but truly, it is a transformational process. And that is the signature here of new life. Okay. And with Mars, which the Greek called Eris, of war. But here, the action, it also has a separation. There's a lot that happens that you need to transform when you're separated, sometimes for reasons that you didn't choose, and other times even if you did. But here you have some ideas how you want to elaborate on these deep archetypal rulers.
Death and rebirth. I like it. And take the action to dig deep within yourself and face your challenges.
Courage. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I see. Well, let's talk about the tarot, the major arcana, not the minor. And here we have two cards. Death, 13, is Scorpio. And really the tarot is only the major planets up until Saturn. But it can incorporate Pluto. So again, it takes that story of rebirth and transformation, new beginnings. And Mars for the Emperor, 34, that's innovative. Well, let's just leave let's leave the 3 off. It's a 1 and a 5. Those are Roman numerals. It's actually 4. And it's Mars. Yeah, go ahead. Some
And it's
ideas.
The emperor is a leader and makes decisions for the greatness of the whole and about structure and ambition. So death and rebirth and courage, like you'd said before with that Mars card.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
Well, I was going to just, mention something that I've noticed, especially in natal charts, is that, so many times we think of Aries as leadership and, and of course Capricorn as well. But Aries because it is associated with the Emperor card with Mars. And so there's authority and control again here. But I also find this in Scorpio as well, especially strong, let's say Sun Mars conjunction in Scorpio, or Sun Saturn conjunction in Scorpio. That's a little bit of a dominant, controlling leadership, authority, personality. So I think this is interesting that we've got this kind of water, fire, Scorpio, Aries energy going on here. That is always sometimes doesn't play well together. And so it really does cause tension or need to kind of go deeper and look at stuff.
Thank you. You answered my intuitive call. I was wondering, how does this work with Scorpio? Perfect. The numerology, you add 2 and 8, it's always going to be 1. We're going to be working with 1 throughout this season of the 6 months since the last eclipse to the next, as these full new moons are at that degree. However, so it is, as we will go over, certain characteristics. However, and it is our sun, but how we look at that sun of our core identity and how we take that internal moon of creation and birthing and new beginnings and the root of potential and opportunity. Right now it's in Scorpio. And along with that is Mercury. So we're communicating these, and it's reiterating the power versus powerlessness, because it's like, is it really working for us? Do we need to purge something?
Well, and the 2 is about partnership or duality, and the 8 is that we've put in the hard work and now we get to reap the benefits, but there was quite a bit of hard work, and then it goes down to a 1. So it's like, what we've done before in our relationships, now how do we make changes to move forward in a new way?
Wonderful. Yes. That's an important factor to remember. We haven't left. And Venus right there in Scorpio. Values still. I mean, thank you, Liz. Justin.
So one of the other things we look at in the show is the Jyotish view of the lunar mansions, or what we call the Nakshatras, and these are just constellations in the sky and myths around the constellations as the planets go through the lunar mansions or Nakshatras. And for this particular one, the sun and the moon are in the lunar mansion of Anuradha, or it's Nakshatra of Anuradha. And each of the Nakshatras or lunar mansions is divided up into 4 sections that are called padas. And in this particular one, this is in the first pada, which is the Navamsa or energy of this is fiery. And what's really kind of helps us to understand the mythology around this particular section in the sky under this nakshatra is the deity here. So the ruling deity is Mitra, which was a solar god of friendships and partnerships. So let's say a person has their sun in this, their natal sun here, or their moon, or their Mercury, or their Venus, or Mars, even any of the personal planets, inner planets. There'll be a person that likes to create relationship or get into relationship with others. But behind the motivation of this, of wanting to get into relationships, is understanding people deeper. So you'll find people that have these particular right around the 28 degrees here in Scorpio are the type of people when they want to understand somebody or understand somebody better, they'll become their friend. So they get deeper into it. So here we have a little bit of that Scorpio latching on, controlling, wanting to go deeper, intense in relationships. So understanding others through friendship. And because this is in the first pada, the energy is around self-expression. So in order to attract others. So it could be a person that when they want to get into a relationship with somebody or get to know them better, they may, create a scene or, kind of be a little bit larger than life personality, because this is a Leo kind of fiery energy along with it. And the ruling planet here is Saturn. And so this is the energy that the sun and the moon are in. And as we will see when we get to the Sabian symbols today, this will kind of come out with the degrees of the Sabians with the sun and the moon around sort of the self-expression or how one expresses oneself with one's intentions as well. But so again, this does kind of focus, again, we're talking about the two with partnerships and relationships. This really highlights relationships is associated with this new moon.
Thank you, Justin. You have elaborated on a really profound complexity that our emotional path involves here. It's not a simple drip in the bucket.
Well, what happens, in the Vedic astrology or Jyotish astrology, there's and Liz and I have talked about this before. There's what's called Gadanta. And this is whenever a planet gets ready to move from a water sign to a fire sign, it's water and fire creates steam. There's a really what they call a spiritual knot or Gadanta. It brings up situations that we have to confront. And here we've got this sun and the moon almost at the anaretic degree, about ready to go into Sagittarius, and Mars is already there. Right. And Juno's already there, so there's this focus on this. What do we got going on? What's churning, what's that churning between the water and the fire and the steam with relationships?
Excellent. Yep. Thank you. That's heating. Thank you. The Sabian symbols, another symbolic, deeply informative pattern based on imagery and stories attached to them. Life is a story. Essentially, we have our emotional stories in life. And in Scorpio particularly, that's a time to rephrase. There's many opportunities, but this is a profound one. And there's a history. And other astrologers have taken this and run with it. And we use those. We don't necessarily go with Mark Edmund Jones, but we do use Elsie Wheeler's who's a spiritualist medium, her work. So here we have, using the Eastern Standard Time for the ascendant in this chart, as we do in this particular panel that Archetypal Symbols uses. And it was on November 20th. It's at early in the morning, 1:47, you could say, but it was a second afterwards. So if you did anyway, and that's Eastern time. So the ascendant Eastern Standard Time is in Virgo, 25 degrees, but we go with the three of them. So it's going to be spanning 24, 25, 26 Virgo. And for the MC, that's the midheaven, it's at 24 Gemini. They're both ruled, we always want to bring up, by Mercury, which is retrograde. That's right, very strong. This is an intense new moon. And so the point being that we'll be focusing on the 23, 24, 25 Gemini. And finally, the sun and moon, that regardless where you are on the planet, is going to be at 28 degrees Mercury, Scorpio, thank you. And so that's 27, 28, 29 Scorpio. But here, it's not in opposition, as Liz reminded me, it's a in conjunct. So at first I thought, wow, what is the relationships here? And then, of course, there's always a relationship in the sky. But some of them, here we have, for Eastern time, perhaps the stories that these share, that we're putting out into the world with our MC, with 10th house, might be communicated, might find a struggle because there's a push-pull with quincunxes. They don't have the same energetic modes. I mean, astrologically speaking, they don't have the same energy as far as the elements and the modalities. You know, one is fixed, the other is mutable, one is air, one is water. And then but however, they do have for ourselves a real relationship that we can work with, because there's that action tension with how we're working with our personality or our self of the ascendant. And then there's a connection flowing, how we're going to try to express that. But how we put that out into the world, well, that's maybe what we're working on. Okay.
And they're not always in an aspect, and they're, you know, pretty close in aspect to each other with a square, a sextile, and a quincunx. So that doesn't always happen. So that was interesting this month for this new moon.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, it's a very mental. If you're on the East Coast, of course, you're dealing with the ascendant being in Virgo and midheaven being in Gemini. This is more mental energy for the East Coast here. But the quincunx is, whereas a square is tension, needs change, and a trine is an easy flow, and sextile is a creative, and trine, I'm sorry, is an easy flow. The quincunx is imbalanced, so there is something that we have to look at to bring something back into balance.
We do have some work here this month, but it's going to have always a new world. I mean, okay, let's find out. So looking at the ascendant of the past 23 degrees Gemini, 3 fledglings in a nest high in a tree for creative growth.
And then the present is Gemini 24, children skating over a frozen village pond. Triumph over entropy. I guess that's how you say it.
I know, it's entropy, I guess. Yeah, right. Okay. Same difference. Justin.
So this is actually, I just want to take a second out. This is actually the midheaven degrees. This is Gemini, because the ascendant is Virgo, correct?
Yes.
Oh, rats. Did I put? Yes.
Yeah, that's okay.
You know what? With all the details, I think I did. Yes. I missed that one. So last month was Virgo.
There's a reason, obviously, for this. But we still, these degrees, let's just go ahead and look at these degrees. So the present of the 24 degrees Gemini, there is children skating over a frozen village pond. And it really brings in an element of the use of inhibiting circumstances for the development of character and triumph over entropy. Something to note is, as I've looked at the Sabian symbols, is that if you look at the 24 degrees in each of the signs, there's a relationship. And the 23 degrees of every zodiac sign there's a story just in the 23 degrees all around the zodiac. So this is okay, because there's a story here that's related to Virgo, the 23, 24, and 25 as well.
Justin, it actually is in Gemini. It's Virgo that's the midheaven.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, I the last month, because I used the last month's slides, and with all the details, and Virgo is quite detail oriented, which I respect and work with, but I missed this one. It needs to say Virgo. So it actually, these Virgos, tongue to sue. It's in Gemini. It should have read Gemini up at the top, and the Gemini is correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So yeah. What a mix. But I love the fact that 23 spins around all of the 23. I had not realized. In other words, in the developmental story, regardless, each degree has a certain phase that it's talking about. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and it's like it's always good too to look at the opposite one, but we don't have time on our show to be looking at the opposite ones because they
Yes, the
form
book.
it a lot.
Yeah, Edmund Jones in his book, he does put it that way.
I think the ascendant on this is Virgo.
What is it? Oh my
Yes,
goodness!
it
I think
is.
the next slide, I think you just mixed it up because I think when I looked over them, on the next slide you had the other one, so I think it's pretty close. And there's a reason. I mean, it's all in perfect order.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, thank you. So in other words, and they're so close, 23, 25. So we're mixing, and it's some mental thing that we're looking past. I mean, I'm thinking in my brain, okay, I'm retrograding, right? What am I looking at first? Sometimes you're not sure. At any rate, so here we have some sense of a transformation of innocence, realizing, go ahead.
Yeah, and if we're just going to summarize these, I would say these three kind of relate to me about service, because you have the boy with a censer, the working with a priest near the altar. So there's practice and service there. Then there's a little bit of needing some type of recognition out of what we're doing, and then approaching things from an innocence, simple way of looking at life. What do you all think?
I like that.
Yes, indeed. Service really adds to it. That's working beautifully. But the Scorpio new moon itself, here we have 27 to 29 degrees. Maybe that synthesis is the best way to look at it. Go ahead, Justin, if you'd like.
Well, if we look at the past of what's coming in, we have the archetypal symbol of a military band marches noisily through the city streets. So it's, again, you might remember we were talking about the concept of self-expression, of how we're expressing ourselves to others. There's sort of an aggressive glorification or a pompousness here to the military band.
And then
Liz, something's I can see it burbling. Go ahead.
Scorpio 28, the king of the fairies approaching his domain, and its allegiance and a capacity to recognize homage. So, and then you can read.
Okay. I thought we were incorporating all of it actually, but it is in the last a profound imagery of where a mother is pleading to the leader, hey, let me have the life of my children. And this is all about love. And love is the final answer, as we know, to any concept. And for Scorpio, it truly is that embodiment.
And, if we synthesize these together, you notice how that intercession about relationships or intermediating for others, again, comes in the concept of relationships again here. Of course, you mentioned last month we had new moon in Libra, so now we're still dealing with relationships. But here it seemed to be more about how we are expressing, I think, how we're expressing ourselves, and some level of control, because an Indian woman pleading with the chief is about, asking a higher power or authority or somebody in control for something, so just curious what you all think, Liz and Sue.
I like what you said, and I think you covered it well. In relationships, yes, really important.
Yeah, and control, I must say, that really hones in on one sense, because a fixed sign is that it's used to having what is worked on. And in Scorpio, it's not been an easy process. It is always working with what's giving me life. It doesn't want death. It wants to avoid death, but it realizes that death can happen. And therefore, it's always a real intense, meaningful, and psychologically deep excavation to discover what in the heck is working. And remember, all these are late degrees. So I really am glad to be reminded that it is in that sense of how to maintain some sense of, and in this case, the control of the protection of one's children. It's everything that you love. You don't want to lose. Yep. Well, I don't know where we are. Oh, we're past time. We're going to take a break. I have Liz Machette and Justin Crockett-Elsie. We'll be back with archetypal symbols for that new moon. Let's look at it. Come, return with us. Okay, like a retrograde. Okay, see ya. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Scorpio, traditionally ruled by Mars, now ruled by Pluto. By departing a cycle based on comparison between extreme energies, finding balance, Scorpio commits a relationship to exchange resources, experiencing power and powerlessness for the purpose of soul growth transformation. As a fixed water sign that is extreme, intense, and secretively deep, Scorpio's passionate nature questions the psychology and mystery concerning life and death.
Talk Cosmos brings insightful conversations to awaken consciousness for the soul growth with hour-long programs. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel and Facebook page. While you're there, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. And to find out about upcoming programs, sign up for the newsletter at talkcosmos.com. So grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
This is Martha Norwalk, every Sunday morning beginning at 9 a.m. Thanks in part to Dr. Nels Rasmussen at healingministryforanimals.com. We cover the world of animals. This week, November 16th, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and talk with your human or animal loved ones on this side or the other, and personal readings with Natasha Venter. I hope you can join us and plan to call in with your questions for either one of us. Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Self-help, healing, spirituality, and more on Alternative Talk, 1150.
Hi again. And you know what? I was reflecting, as one is, especially right now, realizing, of course, Gemini's at the top because it moves over to Virgo, which would be the ascendant. You know, it's how anyway. All right. So Liz is a lightpath.com. Justin is JustinCrockettElsie.com, and they both have their YouTube channels. Liz is a light. I think you're both Liz Machette and a light path, and Justin is astrological yogi. I'm Talk Cosmos. Liz has a whole potpourri of really fascinating podcasts. Go ahead. Anyone in particular? Mm-hmm.
Well, I have the Astrology Star Sisters, and Sue joins me from time to time on that. And we have a variety of topics. Justin joins me for the full moon, the monthly forecast, and the Chiron asteroid series. So there's a good archive going on and weekly shows. So check me out. Thanks.
Yeah, wonderful. And Justin, you've added to your...
Yeah, so I'm a consulting astrologer, and you can catch some of my videos on YouTube under Astrological Yogi, but a good way to get a hold of me is through my email, justin.lz@gmail.com.
And you're writing a weekly horoscope.
Yeah, I'm a horoscope writer. I write a horoscope for the Port Townsend Leader here on the Olympic Peninsula and the western part of Washington.
It's always an informative way for people to check in on what's happening. So do check that out. You can always do it online. I'm sure they have something online that you can look at. And for Talk Cosmos, these are in the past. They're pretty informative, though, because these degrees and the messages are profound. You know, with Pluto, we just did that. It was quite insightful. However, going forward is still within this mysterious times that Scorpio wants to delve into. Next week, we'll look at all 4 quarters, the major moon phases, because as we had pointed out, or as Justin pointed out with the Vedic nakshatras, we're going towards Sagittarius. You know, at the late degree, the next phases shift from one sun degree into the next. So it is that fire energy. And mystery charts will return for Astro Jam at the end of the month. That'll be Thanksgiving weekend. Here we have retrograde planets in force at the Scorpio New Moon on the 20th of November. And we're repeating a bit, but Mercury will be on that date at 28 degrees retrograde in Scorpio. It actually started from the 9th of the month of November at 6 degrees Sagittarius, almost 7 degrees. And then at the very end of the month, on the 29th, it has gone.
Mercurial station direct.
Yeah, it should be. Oh, it was Sag. It was in Sag. That's what I'm saying. SG and SC. Okay, so it was Sag degrees.
And it backed into
6
Scorpio.
degrees Sag. Yeah, and then it goes back to 20 degrees Scorpio. Jupiter is 25 retrograde Cancer. Trine. Saturn at 25 degrees retrograde Pisces. And Uranus and Neptune are in a sextile, 29 degrees retrograde Taurus for Uranus. All of these revisiting previous cycles, except for Jupiter that's still within its year's focus. But the others have much longer cycles, as we know. Saturn with 2.5 years, finishing up that time in Pisces before it really launches in January into Aries. And Uranus toggling in Taurus until it goes back to Gemini, and Neptune visiting that last degree of Pisces.
Well, and I think it's important. It's kind of interesting to note that there's a lot of water going on here. Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer is about expansion and growth when it comes to family or tribalism, because it's Cancer. So this, retrograding, it brings up questions about where we belong, or, could bring up issues in family or changes in family, where people live as far as the family goes. Some of us know that personally. And then, of course, Saturn, going from Aries back into Pisces. So it's really a shift from the end of the zodiac to the beginning of the zodiac here. And the same thing with Neptune. And then, of course, Uranus going back into Taurus versus Gemini. So, it's a lot of, I don't know about you all, but I think when a lot of the outer planets here are retrograding, it really brings in this sort of like the brakes hit, in the bigger collective. And it's creating this like, push-pull shift of where people are going and uncertainty with this.
It is. It truly is. It's a great time to purge or change. I know I'm going through, there's been a lot of physical changes in my environment, our home. So I'm taking crates of files. And when I can, I have notes from 2011, 2019 that I thought, okay, I'll look at. Well, it's like some of them I will and some of them I won't. Anyway, that's on one minor phrase. But yep.
Well, it keeps repeating that kadanta that you were talking about earlier, Justin, of the water, the fire goes back to the water and the water goes back to the fire. So it's like kind of revisiting that over and over and over. And we've been doing that for several months, but it's kind of interesting that this new moon is very heavily that kadanta energy.
Absolutely, because we will see there's a grand trine. And meanwhile, also, there is this other trine that's happening with Saturn and Jupiter. They're at 25 degrees. I think I said sextile, but it's actually their trine. Mm-hmm. And this, remembering, as has been said, but to really focus, here we have this deep dive, and we have the two social planets in a flow, coming from their conjunction at 0 degrees back at the end of 2020 and December 21st at 0 degrees Aquarius. And then they had the square. So this is another part of the picture.
Absolutely.
Well, can I just say something about that?
Please.
That you point that out, because and I know you all do this, it's always important as we look at the phases, right? So the phases of this relationship that we were just, that was pandemic time when they were conjunct in Aquarius, right? And now, as they're moved into this phase of the being trined with one another, I think you could see issues from the pandemic come up concerning Jupiter and Saturnian issues that happened at that time. And if we look at, there's revisiting around vaccinations and economics and everything else around, I'll give you an interesting story. So when we think about families and homes, Cancer energy, there's this story that just came out today about how a lot of people who bought homes during the pandemic when the rates were really low are feeling now like they're trapped. They made these decisions, and I think this kind of represents that Jupiter and Saturnian, bringing limitations and responsibilities, right? They bought these homes, and now all of a sudden there's this generation of people thought, maybe I shouldn't have done that, but that Saturnian energy is bringing some sense of discipline with the Jupiter in Cancer there.
How fascinating. That is really a series of consequences, isn't it? Which really brings back this entire but archetypal wisdom of Scorpio, because we have to really look at our motives, look at that emotional. Well, let's lead on. Thank you for that.
Well, I was going to say one more thing too about that.
Good.
Another way of looking at the Jupiter Saturnian archetype is Jupiter's the planet says, sure, you can have chocolate for breakfast. I don't care if you puke. I'm going to give you everything you want for happiness and good fortune. But Saturn is the authoritarian parent that comes in and says, nope, you got to sit there, eat your peas with no salt and finish them. So there's sort of this parental energy with these two planets,
So yes, that's right. Here, the sun and moon and Mercury, we're just looking at these three that are so united, because it's always the sun and moon at this moment. They're all in patterns with their aspects, which we will talk about later. But it is interesting to realize what their energies are focused on. There's this opposition with Uranus that will get some help from another planet with its point of Thales. It's also in a trine with Jupiter and a trine with Saturn. I forgot to mention that, which involves that great trine, grand trine. And then it's in a transformational relationship connecting with Pluto. So if you look at all that, it wants the expansion, the changes that it's connecting with, and sudden today values with the Saturnian. Ooh, what's the limits? How can we make this real? It's quite a strong story.
Well, go ahead, Liz. Go ahead.
I want to speak to the conjunction with Black Moon Lilith, the Sun and the Moon and Mercury, and it's in Scorpio. So, facing life reality, like my parents are getting older and they're getting closer to end of life. They're not going to die tomorrow or, next week or anything, but, just having those conversations with my parents as an example of what are their wishes as they're going through these challenges. How do they want to deal with those, and how can I help them do those things? And so I think communication on a deep level, and that's just my example. It could be on a different level, but, and really working on those relationships and communicating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Justin?
Well, and just to piggyback on top of that, I think what's really jumps out to me here is, and it's really being affected by that Lilith as well, but that opposition with Uranus, because Uranus is playing a role of bringing some sense of change or risk or needing to reevaluate that. And I think it's, the fact that it's opposing the moon and dark moon Lilith there is really, it's really kind of important to pay attention to our emotions, and how they can be just pulled asunder right now with that. But it is Taurus and Scorpio, so there could be changes of resources at this particular period of time, and
That's what I
something
was
that we have to
thinking.
let go of in order to gain something.
Yep. As far as action with a T-square, here we have Mars, the actions personified. And it's in that fiery Sagittarius rather, that we were talking about. But it's mutable, and it's with our past and our karmic past, represented by the South Node, and the direction that we're trying to integrate into. We don't leave one, but we embrace how to go ahead. And it's with the whole, it's with the unity of life, in Pisces, and looking at compassion and using these great.
Well, and Mars, is one of the rulers of Scorpio. So Mars is very active in this chart because that's the chart, the new moon ruler, and then it's square those nodes. So what action needs to be taken from what's from our past and how to move forward?
Yep. And looking at that Uranian sudden changes with values or how we're surviving. Should we go on to the?
Well, I was going to mention one thing about that, the kind of the energy there. So Mars and Sagittarius wants to just do it, and I want to do it, and I need my independence and freedom to do it. But I think it's bringing in some element of as one of you pointed out, I don't know who did it, about some analysis there, because Virgo's there. So there's, whatever actions and changes people are wanting to do right now, that South Node and Virgo is going to say, wait, you gotta analyze this first, right? And think about this logically, rationally here a little bit. So this is a caution of, be careful of taking risks here and analyze things a little bit before you take action.
And thank you for bringing all this up. Jupiter in its retrograde path, looking at those things of security in Cancer, wants to act on those healing factors and what's inclusive or being excluded, because we have the archetypes of Eris and Chiron. So yes, this is a very complex, that charge ahead of Mars, which is going in direct, is landing up with a lot of this refocusing. Thank you. That's it's emotional. As we had said, there's so much water here. And here we have a kite, as it's expressed, with Pluto leading the forces. And how does Leo do that? It says, hey, I'm throwing it back to you. How are we composting your emotions? Thank you. And as all the emotions are being triggered, not triggered, but flowing with these emotional energies that we've brought up.
Yeah, and it seems like we've had air trines and water trines, and they kind of keep bouncing back and forth between those. And so, again, that water energy, with the Kadanta, it's like just reinforcing that constantly.
Yeah, I'm thinking air travels that way anyway. Air goes from water in the water as we see it, liquid, which with the Kadanta as a steam rising up into the air, into the clouds, it falls again. So yeah, it is a real life energetic focus. Because of time, shall we go on? Justin, did you have words?
No, I didn't. I think you all covered it well.
Okay. Well, point of Thales is that point that I was mentioning earlier, where you have an opposition between two planets, and this third one in a sextile of connections and a trine of flow is working out some ideas. We have three of them. So we have three focal points, and looking at it, it all goes back to the transformation of Pluto. And two of them are with the sun and the moon. So with Mercury. So we're communicating this sense of with the suddenness of the times represented by Uranus, and The other happens to be Neptune, which both of you can speak about, of course. And Venus is the other, which is the nodes of past and present. So it's very fundamental. Again, looking at the values, where are our boundaries? What are we changing?
Well, and it's like you work on that opposition of being aware of that there's something that needs to make some kind of an adjustment. And then you have the trine and the sextile to do the work that will resolve the opposition. I always think of these for the Thales.
Yeah, exactly. It's a completion there, as Liz is talking about. It's a completion of a concept.
Oh, this is very motivating. It's a good knowledge to understand that this new moon, with all its work or involvement, it's rather, when I think of Scorpio, there's little choice. It's like a magnetic draw, sort of like Pluto that took Persephone. There's, what's the question? You're gone. You've got to work this out. But there is new life. You can come back. Well, looking at this in relationship to the United States, because it brought to my attention that Jupiter, that was relatively recently going retrograde at 25 degrees, which was as of the 11th, I think, of November, which is 9 days prior. And anyway, is conjunct and crossing over the natal Mercury of the United States in Cancer. That happens to be retrograde. I think many of us are unaware, or not, it doesn't get discussed much, that this nation has a retrograde Mercury. And it is therefore working with both Plutos, both our natal Pluto and the transiting Pluto, along with this grand trine that we're talking about. So it's just not to go into our politics or anything, but just to give that we're honestly working in this tremendous reevaluation, you could say, of autonomy and liberation, this sense of control that Eris is bringing, the inclusion of values and communicating it.
So that Jupiter is about tribalism and Cancer and family, right? Cancer rules family and family lineage. And the fact that it's retrograding on the United States, Mercury and Cancer, which is a retrograde as well. I think it is retrograde. Yes. It's really kind of how you see what's happening with one of the factors of questioning who belongs and who doesn't belong here. And that's part of that conjunction that's happening there.
It sure is. It's a continuation of that Chiron return that I know we discussed in earlier years that happened, that is always monumental. And people can look at that with U.S. global currents. That was a mini panel that we had. Well, maybe for our last few minutes, we can just briefly bring back the idea that there will be a time when things go direct after this new moon. And I said by the 30th, but it's a little earlier, the 27th and the 28th. So it's not long after that. There'll be clear thinking, yes? Maybe?
Hopefully, well, and just work on communication and maybe do some automatic writing or journaling or counseling, but, work on your communication skills.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And, along with the communications that Liz is talking about, really, this is a time for deep, intense conversations with partners and friends and relationships and things that have to come to the surface that need to be dealt with in relationships.
It is that friendship and understanding.
And letting go.
Yeah, that's right. Not to let the dominance hold you, but to really have that compassion. Things are in Pisces and the love, the eternal love of everything that works. Well, thank you, both Liz and Justin. It's a good friendship we've had.
Next month for the new moon.
Yes, indeed. blessings somehow within, and lots of love to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for joining an insightful conversation on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests awaken consciousness by connecting soul growth patterns with astrology's energetic cycles. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.